My name is Tony Hamilton. I'm a solution architect, a career experienced IT professional. I'm delighted today to be with music therapist Hope Young, producer Stephen Bartlett, and the delightful Cassie Shankman, who's a fantastic composer and hopefully one day a Grammy Award winner. So as you may or may not know, our panel movement tracks where biotech and technology merge is part of a renaissance, a conversation around to help and support the spirit and the physical well-being of humanity, especially around challenging health issues such as cerebral palsy and Parkinson's disease. That's why I'm here today. I believe in helping others with my heart and soul, and this is what we're going to discuss: a methodology, an approach, and also show some instinctive insights on how this methodology works and changes lives. So with that said, over to you, Hope.
Well, thank you, Tony. And you guys, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, and we're delighted to have you. So one of the great needs I've had since childhood is to help. And especially, my story starts young. The demand, why this is so important to me is the need, the demand. When I was little, my mom's got her undergraduate as coloratura, soprano, composer, incredible musician. She did her master's and PhD work in special ed. Hearing impaired, I have a congenital loss just like my mom. We're both musicians, just like Beethoven. And mom was the head of special ed for Michigan. As a little girl, I used to play with all the kids who didn't have arms or legs or were hearing impaired. It was very natural with mom and I always doing music and seeing the difference, but it got more personal as my mom's depression turned to bipolar disorder. And the music is powerful, but it's not enough. And I can speak from that personally because even though when mom would have her worst moments, there was a way to still connect to her through the music. It wasn't transforming our lives the way a treatment level would, with very predictive and more precise tools. So when later years came around and lithium carbonate got more developed and more precise in the dosing and just those chemical research to make a treatment that actually would really bring mom stable and well, back as my mom, I really appreciate the value of science and methodology and keep pushing towards when humanity has a need and it's personal. For me, how we have, with the sciences and with the arts, merged how we have predictive, more precise, and more personalized medicine. And that's been my last 30 years as a professional, and especially the last 15 for the Movement Tracks Project, since I've been a clinician that long, to get music as a music therapist to that level of medical application. Precise, predictable, analytics, and personalized. So right now, I would like to do a little bit of an experiential to help you guys get a little bit of idea what we've done and where we're at right now and where we hope to go. Actually, before I do that, let's show you a video so you can see where the story is, and then I'll get you into a little bit more of the experience. So let's watch this video. My name is Hope Young, and I own the Center for Music Therapy in Austin, Texas, and we are here at the CSM, American Physical Therapy Association National Conference. And it's an exciting moment. We have the launch of Biodex Medical Systems Gait Trainer 3 system with an integrated music therapy option to increase neuroplasticity training in the rehab setting. So it's the first time that music is being intentionally integrated with a biomedical system for treatment of gait disorders such as Parkinson's, stroke, head injury, multiple sclerosis. So it's a very exciting moment. Our Movement Tracks project team developed these recordings in 2015, and they're making their debut out in the market. Instead of on Pandora or through Apple, we are right here through Biodex Medical Systems, and these are the only systems that they're licensed to and allowed to be played for patients to regain walking.
I'm Jamie Reese. I'm president of Biodex Medical Systems. we're showing our new gait trainer with music therapy added to it. The product is the hit of this meeting. We have 11,000 people here. They intuitively understand the connection between physical activity and cognitive activity. I can't say enough about how excited I am about the potential of this product and everything that will follow after it. It's the first time anyone has connected those two elements. And again, everyone understands exactly what we're trying to do and really appreciates it.
So that's just an intro of where we are right now. I'm going to back up and talk about the need a little bit more with some statistics. So you heard about Parkinson's, and you heard about music therapy. How many of you have even heard of music therapy before? Hey, all right, now that's good. So
Actually, as a panel, we would have put our hands up as well.
that's right, that's right.
Just didn't want to do that right now.
So today's population in the United States, when you're talking about the need and what we're doing with tech, we have a current population of 318 million people. We have current 6,300 music therapists in the United States, just over half of those practicing full time. So you can see from a business owner and scale perspective, we have a problem. That's an insufficient service delivery model to meet the demand. We have a looming crisis coming up, and it's now, but it's going to really hit us these next 50 years. In the United States and globally, in all the developing world, we have an aging population without the millennials and everybody making babies enough to keep up, to provide caregivers for all these statistics. Listen to this. 65 and older in the United States, if you're that age, there are 40.2 million from the 2010 census, with the projection of 88.5 million people over the age of 65 by 2050. For the demographic, if you're 85 and over, there's 6.3 million in the statistics for 2015. That's going to almost triple by 2015 to 17.9 million people. That's 4.5% of the total US population. This is happening all over the globe. And that's why you hear a lot of the aging in place modeling that Intel, and we're in discussion with Intel, ours is integrating with that kind of system and design. So when you talk about just two diagnoses, we're talking Parkinson's is typically age 50 and older, but what about the kids? We have cerebral palsy, and that's 79,000 kids with cerebral palsy. And in the movement track, since that's all part of the movement disorders family, MS, stroke, head injury, what we focused on as the movement is to capture as many people as we can help with music, with the integrated technologies and health. So just to give you a little bit of the statistical background, why this is so important, that hopefully puts a little context of now, but why we need to be moving that needle hard in a collaborative way in partnership with technology companies, now and in the future.
So, Hope, thank you for your personal testimony, and thank you for your service in this particular area of what I consider leading edge sort of medical care approaches. You're clearly passionate about this. You've spent your whole life in this area. But quick question, who else is involved? I mean, I'm fully aware of what's going on over the last 10 or 15 years, but who else is involved? Who are all the stakeholders in such a wide, sounds like a wide initiative?
Yeah, and you'll see as the videos go on that we do. This is a cross-sector project. So you have the music sector, which you're going to hear. We had to start there because the way music is designed, the whole engineering of it, wasn't moving fast enough. I've known, actually my friend Mike is here. We've talked for the last 15 years trying to figure out to get it to the point where the music and the technology could integrate, and the real problem was on the music side. So on the music sector, we have engineers, we have all my Grammy friends, Ray Benson, Malcolm Harper. If you guys know Rupert Neve, he's one of the gods of analog sound. He and I have been having conversations for 20-some years, since the 90s, about this. Emerging technologies, who you're going to hear a lot about, and other technology companies in music are working hard to innovate to make the music be able to work with the technology. In the technology side, we have so many partners. Biodex Medical Systems, we're in discussions with Intel, we're in discussions with Hitachi on the innovation side, the city of Austin to bring this design in as a mobility, active mobility, for transportation solutions around town. that's called inclusive. So we're in discussions with Ted Lear, who's head data for the city. We're also working with the medical. So how many of you know about the whole IT transformation in medical to electronic medical records, to tele-based healthcare service delivery, so your doctors, your therapists can Skype into you, can read your analytics, your information, your chart, and delivering the care more where you are at versus you coming to the brick and mortar facility for care. So we're in partnerships talking with Medicare and moving things to value-based care on the macros design, if you know, on the reimbursement financial side. So you can see we also have partners at the universities, UT, University of St. Augustine, who you're going to hear about. Complex but beautiful collaboration, and everybody working towards creating that future together.
Great. So I was just taking some notes there. So it's almost like a multinational sort of ecosystem, right? So it's business, society, state and local government, healthcare, music, and academia. And I'm sure I've missed someone. And if I have missed you, and you're in the room, please don't leave at this point in time. Another question, Hope, is this global? Are there other countries involved? Are there other similar hopes in other
Yes.
nations, in other cities?
And Tony, you've helped that. You introduced me to Hitachi, to Steve, and then he introduced us to the group in Copenhagen.
Great.
And they're working hard. I'll be in Europe next month, in Italy, in France. I'm hoping to get to Copenhagen, but I've got Poland, Germany, France, the UK, all to make in like just 37 days. But Singapore, I know you're going to show a model of Singapore. China has reached out to us. The head of Gibson Music is very interested in furthering music in this market in Asia. So yes, it's a global movement, and music is everywhere. And so it's a really nice fit, and the health demand is everywhere.
Great, interesting. So I believe we're going to show one
You
more
ready?
video before we talk to the delightful Cassie. So bear with us. So.
I don't always have access to a music therapist. It depends on whether there is one that works at the facility that I do and if there's one available. And so with this new methodology, it creates a system that allows a physical therapist to still utilize music interventions for our clients. And the music now is starting to incorporate the neuroplasticity and the changes that we see in the brain. For example, a person with Parkinson's disease, the issue is their brain doesn't tell them to move like it should, and they no longer receive that internal cue. And if I can utilize music to give them that external cue to take a step, to move their leg forward, to start walking, that's a huge advantage for my therapy session and ultimately the patient. Neuroplasticity is an amazing concept that didn't always exist. There was a time we thought that when the brain had an injury or a child that was born with a congenital condition, that was status quo. We weren't going to see a lot of improvements upon that. And luckily, we've learned that that's not true. We've learned that through rehab and through challenging a person, we can create changes within the brain. We've known this in our orthopedic athletic world for years. If you want to run further or run a marathon, you can make changes within your body and your system to perform better. And that's really what we want to capture with our neurological population as well. With the future studies that we have planned, we're really focusing on those individuals that have Parkinson's disease and children with cerebral palsy, but it's wide open to whom this could help with. It's certainly not limited to those two diagnoses.
I love these videos. I think they're a testimony to how much caring there is actually by these individuals on the panel. But Cassie, over to you, future Grammy winner. Hopefully you'll give me your autograph when that happens. You've gone from knowing little or nothing about music therapy to a full-blown supporter. In fact, I want to say you're an innovator. You've actually contributed ideas, and your ideas are actually being applied right now and showing tangible results, which we're going to display in a few moments. What compelled you to be involved in this area?
Yeah, so basically I have always been interested in music and medicine. And in high school, actually, I was either going to study music or I was going to study medicine. That was all I wanted to do. And about 7 years ago, I met Hope at the Center for Music Therapy. I volunteered there, and I had a lot of fun. It was a really great experience. And then we ended up rekindling, actually, at a Grammy event about 2 years ago, when this whole project started. And Hope presented this idea to me, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, yeah, I'm so on board. It's going to be challenging, but I'm so on board because it's completely different from the music that I write. I write film music, I write pop music, I arrange, I orchestrate, I do all that stuff, and it's very different. You can't just go in writing that. You have to write music that correlates to each gait issue. Gait issues are body movement issues, or body functions. And so each element, each instrumentation correlates to that. And that's something that Hope and we did, and all the therapists, Emily Morris, who's also here, we did a lot of research. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. It was very challenging to sit down and figure out how we're going to do this. And that was something that I really liked. I enjoyed that. So yeah.
Great. Thank you for those key points. And I think for me, what I would take from your comments is that it is personalized. It is personalized to the health challenge of an individual. It's not just one size fits all.
Yeah,
so to speak.
It's definitely like, it's not like music isn't necessarily selfish, but it kind of is. You're writing it for, to make money, or writing it to, for a movie or whatever, to make yourself feel better, and that's totally fine. But this is also something, there's nothing wrong with that. That's also, part of this project too. But we're like making people walk again. We're making people like have better lives. You can actually see it happen, and that's awesome. That just makes you feel awesome every day, so.
That's fantastic. So as a technologist, there's trendy phrases or topical subjects we talk about almost every day. Something comes up every year. I've heard a lot about tech therapy, virtual health. Does movement tracks have a place in these sort of trends and the evolution of these sort of industry segment applications?
Yeah, for sure.
Would love your thoughts. So.
There's, music therapy, music just in general, we basically, when you're in a session, we're trying to create this project specifically to take people outside of the facility, to take them outside of a therapy session, to really create this environment where they're feeling strong, they're feeling happy, and they're not like, okay, I'm going to a therapy session. And so with this, that's why we're creating live sounds. That's why we're creating this music and recording it at a very different level than anything else. And so with stuff like virtual reality, with all this technology that's pushing forward, that's just another element that we can do where we can really, push outside of the boundaries and create this environment that all of the patients can really just enjoy, and enjoy going to therapy, and really build all these different memories, not necessarily associated with therapy, but just, in a way where they're just more positive about that approach.
And it's integrated to where they live.
Yeah.
Instead of being in a treatment. It's integrated what they are to their need, where they live, wherever that is.
So great comments. And so now we've talked about a sort of a vision, a methodology. Let's talk about a particular number of patients or examples. Is everyone familiar with Gabby Gifford? Everyone knows what's happened to Gabby Gifford. We won't go into the details, but I believe the movement tracks helped Gabby. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually.
Well, we didn't personally, but
Mia,
Mia, if you saw Mia, the music therapist, she trained at the Center for Music Therapy. She was my intern, and we trained her in neuro rehab, and she is Gabby's music therapist that worked her through that journey.
Yeah, and it's incredible. So she, if you don't know about her, she had a bullet shot into her head, and basically has recovered almost 100% through that, through music therapy. And basically her right side of the brain, the speech part of her brain was completely impaired through the wound. And because of that, with music therapy, she was able to regain speech by creating pathways with music. So with music and song, she was able to speak the words and music, like she sung Brown Eyed Girl was one of her favorite songs, and was able to start speaking again. And that's incredible. So instead of, if you're thinking of driving on a highway and you're going down and there's a traffic jam, you're going to take a different route. You're going to go, the freeway. That's exactly what music does. Music's all over your brain, so basically you can create different paths to learn how to speak again, learn how to walk again, learn how to do all this different types of stuff again.
That's the neuroplasticity that you hear us keep speaking about. And music, as we're saying, it really is a fundamental structure because it's a neurologic phenomena. Nothing else except music can activate all areas of the brain at the same time. So those intact areas that weren't damaged through the gunshot wound could reach, could grow, and make connections over the areas that were damaged and lost.
And if you know Dr. Oliver Sacks, he has a quote that's just very true. Nothing activates the brain so extensively as music, and that's very true. That's what we're trying to do here. As it is with VR, you can create this environment where somebody's just totally unaware that they're walking because they're walking in a field and they're visually seeing that. I don't know if you guys have tried any VR stuff, but I did one where I had headphones on, I was, and goggles, everything, and there was a spider that was crawling up my arm, and I was just looking at it, in the goggles, but I felt it, and it wasn't there, but I was feeling it, and that's crazy. That's what this is doing. It's bringing and building pathways, so there's so much that this project can go forward.
So thanks, Cassie. Thanks.
And I'm just going to comment on the virtual reality. Some of the teams that we're in discussion with, we're talking about it more as a merged reality. So if you've heard of that level of VR, that's actually where we want to go, more with the merged. That means you're walking through this room while there's some VR on the peripheral vision, but you're actually integrating, you're seeing the chairs, you're seeing where you are, but you have some virtual things coming in to the peripheral with the auditory mix and with, I can show you an example of tactile. We use, in the video, you see that wearable that he's running with. We have a tactile stim that goes with that, a tactile body cue simultaneous.
So thanks, Hope. And I believe we've got one more video, a personal example, a young lady who lives in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing the transformation that's happened in this young girl's life. So go ahead, Hope.
This is Lila.
This is Lila.
Yes. And we're very grateful for Lila. She's been an important part.
My name is Jennifer Traugott. My daughter's name is Lila Traugott. She has cerebral palsy, and we've been taking part in the Movement Tracks research project for 8 weeks. Lila was born and she was full term, no problems expected, but problems developed very quickly. They told me they didn't think she would ever sit up. They said she probably would never be able to feed herself, and so it would best benefit her to get her home so that you guys could be comfortable. Lila started music therapy when she was about 4 years old. She's 7 now. I was really intrigued that first time that we sat down with the live musicians and walking around with her and truly seeing the difference in her gait immediately. It was fascinating. I know that each adjustment that's been made to the music has made a difference. It's a very intriguing thing how the brain works and how it's reacting to the music. She's excelling so far beyond what people thought she could do. It's amazing to watch her be able to interact with the other children really well, and this music seems to kind of talk to her body in a way that physically showing her things cannot.
Where we're going in the future is with very advanced analytics, with wearable type technologies, to where our little girl Lila, that you've been seeing following her story, she'll be walking to school from a bus stop that has a mile walk, and she will be using a wearable that has our algorithm blended with a platform that is measuring what's going on with her walking, and something a car might drive by and splash a big puddle of water on her and it may cause spasticity. Well, instead of waiting her to come to the treatment room to fix that, right where we're at, we can pull up the data and analytics from her wearable, send a corrective sensory input through the music that will get her back in her normal gait. So that's our vision, is to take this technology really to a whole new level in the future, where the treatment room becomes where patients are living, what their needs are, sensory optimization strategies that we're developing as part of the Movement Tracks project. Why high quality sound is so important is because human beings respond extremely differently to a narrow bandwidth like everybody hears now. Through your headphones and your MP3, you're only hearing an extremely narrow, tight range of the overall human experience of sound. When you experience live, which everybody loves the live events. Why do you think you love that? You're digging the full bandwidth of live sound and live experience. You respond completely differently from your head to your toes, to your nerves, to your neurons. That's the way we're meant to experience music. But to make it scalable, we made a commodity that we can put in a phone and it can go over the world. So in our recordings we partnered with Merging Technologies, and we also consulted with Rupert Neve. If you know sound, you know Rupert is one of our gods in full analog sound. Our recordings were all done in DSD, that it captures full analog bandwidth as live as you can get in a digital format that can be then put and scaled into mobile technologies. So our model, our design captures everything, full DSD, full analog, and we have a great partner and are very grateful to Merging Technologies for enabling that.
So Stephen, you've been patient, you've been silent, we appreciate it, we love you. What we're seeing, or what I believe we're seeing, is tech meets therapy, therapy meets tech. You've been on this journey a long time, also almost a decade or longer. Is this, as a producer, which has predominantly been your career, is this a career change? Is it a technology change? What's really going on here, in your opinion? So.
I guess for me, the reason I started doing music was because I think everyone in this room uses music therapy in some way. Whether it's putting a song on to go to sleep, or whether you're putting a song on before you go out on a Friday night or something. We all get affected and transformed by music in a certain way that nothing else seems to do. And several years ago, I got approached by a music therapist who was working with kids with severe brain injuries. And they asked me to come on board, and I started doing recordings, which were possibly the first recordings ever for music therapy. And we started doing them, and seeing the results was just incredible. So from that small initiation, about 6 or 7 years ago, I continued researching and understanding what direct steam digital is, and different forms, and why the brain reacts to music in a way that it doesn't react to anything. And a couple of years ago, I met Hope here in Austin at South by Southwest, actually. And it was the obvious next step, and something that I wanted to add to my career as well.
Fantastic. And you've trademarked that phrase, right? Music therapy is for everyone, right?
Something like that.
Is
yeah.
that right? Is that your... Okay, great, good for you. So, but bringing it together, the challenges, there's so many moving parts in my opinion, and trust me, I get complexity as a engineer or software expert, but this feels like another level of complexity, because you're actually bringing the sort of human spirit and health issues into the conversation or the research. How long does it take? What are the challenges that you've dealt with? And keep it clean, right? Remember, we're being video recorded. So.
It's how long is a piece of string, with every challenge that we have some failures, and we have to keep going back and looking at the science. What I said earlier is we all use music, but we still are learning how that works. So whenever you're trying to discover a new science or learn something from the molecular level up, you have to test theories. And so we're doing things, we're testing them and going again. From a very practical level, it means incredibly high quality recordings, and it means the rooms and the musicians and every single part requires an incredible amount of focus to get it just right, through to then testing the results of that, getting scientific data back, and then altering. I've kind of developed a way to create music that can be changed by any user who doesn't understand the music in real time, and that eventually that will respond to the body's needs, not just an occupational therapist's input. But that's a very challenging thing, to create something that can be undone and still work as well as when it's fully completed.
So there is some secret sauce to it, but we're not divulging it at this
That's
point.
where I get
Okay.
That's
all
why
right.
they pay me the big bucks.
We do have patents, just so you know. They're on
Okay.
file. We just filed 2 weeks ago in Europe, so.
Okay, super.
Yeah.
Super. Well, thank you for those comments. And God, and you know, one of the things that Hope and I have discussed over almost a year now is this idea of this renaissance in healthcare. It has many moving parts and many components, but the one goal ultimately, I believe, Hope, Cassie, and Stephen have is that there's a freedom associated with movement tracks over time, and for that freedom to take place, it will have to be in context with what we're all involved in right now is what's being called smart cities and societies. This is an area that I've been looking at for 30 years. Started in Scotland, looking at digital techniques to help communities. It's become a hot topic, even at South by Southwest. What's interesting is the term smart cities isn't a new term. It was first used in 1869 at the St. Louis World Fair. I wasn't there personally, but what's happening now is that platforms are being created, digital platforms that stream all kinds of information. And to Hope's point, that information can be analyzed for better insights. And you can imagine in 5 years' time or even less, the young lady on the video like Lila having this real-time analytical application behind her gait issues or some of her health issues that give her some suggested responses or proposed responses for her caretakers or her parents. Now that's a bold statement by me, right? I've already signed a disclaimer on that, so don't run to the press with that. But what you are going to see is concepts like movement tracks be associated and blended with, and the precision of something like movement tracks be associated with smart cities and smart societies. Leading countries involved in this are like Singapore. Denmark is a leading country that's looking at how you unify all these information flows. And we're also hoping that the United States is a leader, and even Austin, Texas. So.
I just, one of the things in that slide, you see the lady on the ground with the walker and somebody's sending a signal that she's down. Well, what we're working actually is by predictive analytics, knowing and tracking when people are at risk of falling before they take that fall, and being able to send sensory strategies to correct when they're starting to have an issue. And like I said, if Lila was walking the ACC campus in the Riverside corridor, there's a mile walk from that bus stop to the campus she has to traverse. And she's still going to have cerebral palsy even when she's 18 and goes off to college. But if she's got her music and she has an event like anybody like myself who's had a big pile of water splashed on you, it makes everybody do this. Now, if you have cerebral palsy, that's hard to get out of. She immediately has a response, a sensory strategy that can help throw her back into normalized gait, or a 211 or 311 call if we're watching that it's not correcting fast enough so she doesn't end up on the ground, right? You don't want somebody just stranded a half mile from their walk. And that's what people with MS, people with cerebral palsy, Parkinson's, they want the freedom to get up and walk around, but they're scared right now because of that risk of that fall. So we're bringing those sensory strategies into the technologies in these type of ecosystems. So the center's involved in Austin Cities Up Consortium. We're involved with HIMSS, the Health Informations Group. We're involved in so many of these designing to prevent that, right? Where you're at, change the sensory environment, knowing that you're at risk of a fall, and engage before that happens. Or calling 211 or 311 or 911 response if something's really going on that won't take you to a hospital but take you home.
So great comments,
Yeah.
Hope. So hopefully this sort of ends the formal part of our panel and discussion.
I have one
question.
thing I'd like to try.
Yep. Hold on.
Go ahead.
I feel we've just provided a small insight. It's like looking through a window or a portal about what the depth of experience and knowledge and passion about this subject that Hope, Cassie, and Stephen have. But hopefully it's inspired some of you to ask some questions or think differently about the future of healthcare and physical ailments that exist in society. Now, Hope's going to try an experiment here, so this is the fun part.
I am.
Please-
Before I
Yeah,
start that, because I think once we do this experience with you guys, you're going to get it in a more real level. We're going to actually play one of our recordings at 45 beats per minute, which is 45 steps per minute, which most of us do not walk around the world like that, but there are millions who do. And the future where we're going, these recordings were at 45, and there's no other recordings like it in the world that are meant for movement at that tempo range. Cassie has already begun with me and Emily recordings for 4 beats per minute, because there are millions of people on the planet. That is the range and the tempo that they begin walking. The babies with cerebral palsy don't start at 45. They start at 4 beats per minute. So I'm going to play a recording, and Paul, you volunteered. Sure. All right, come on up front. And any of you who want to stand up in an aisle or just, have your feet going, try to feel what it's like to have a metronome, which is what most of the PTs and folks who've had a stroke or are little kids learning to walk that have cerebral palsy, which makes it a very slow movement, what they have right now to work with. But metronomes do not go below 40 beats per minute. Western music doesn't exist below 40 beats per minute, but guess what we're doing? We're creating recordings of music for everybody. That's everybody on the planet moves. And we can create music there. It's just, we're going to be the first.
So remember, this is fun, Paul, so keep smiling.
All right, so here we go. Let's hope this all works, the audio. So just walk and try to stay within the beat. Can you hear it? Try it. Anybody, you can move the aisles, or you can just try to move your feet, but feel what that feels like, and then the difference when the music kicks in.
Yeah, there's the beat.
We can dance if you want to.
Yeah, you can do
Exactly.
This is 45 beats per minute. It's good walking.
You get it?
Yeah.
All right, everybody get a hand to our volunteer, Paul, and to Cassie and Stephen and team, because again, these type recordings don't exist until now. We created it 2015, and this is the first recording that you can hear slow, but it's got a very forward, can you hear that very forward, sustained, like you're being pulled forward sound? And you heard building in those harmonic textures, the building to lift and go upward, because if you just did it to a metronome or with no sensory input, your legs feel heavy, you feel heavy, you feel slow, there's not a sense of progress. So the music is composed to kind of feel like you're being pulled forward, upward, and still that consistent rhythm. So there was a lot of composition behind that, and now we're going down to 4 and 20, which is going to be 2 different states of babies with cerebral palsy. Like you didn't get to hear Jennifer describe it, but Lila was like a rag doll. She couldn't hold her head up. There was like a noodle. And then you have another extreme situation with folks where it's so much tone and rigidity, like the gentleman running with the wearable on his back, the metronome. He had a head injury, so his muscles, every time he tried to take a step, would just go rigid. And that's the gentleman Cassie and I've already started the compositions for, in that extreme rigid tone. So 2 different movement needs where we've got to compose the music to get that For the rigid state, the knees to bend, to extend, to go from like Paul looked much more in control. You both did. Once the music and you kept walking, you got more normalized. It all just kind of clicked in. Whereas a metronome is functional, but you look like a robot. But it's better than nothing, right?
And it's pretty incredible. We've seen a lot of really neat results, and one of the results, remind me of his name, but he had cancer.
Yes.
And in his left leg, and he was in San Antonio at the conference and was walking on the treadmill and could only walk 2 minutes ever. That was all he could ever do. And as you could hear, a lot of the music is repetitive because it has to keep going. It builds on top of each other, and you can take in and out elements. And basically, he was able to walk 6 minutes.
And he didn't
for the
realize
first
it.
time which was incredible.
Here's the fun part. He's one of the gods of physical therapy research and clinical, and he had cancer. And so we had the recordings, but also we have in that system the analytics that show the pre-test, post-test, your progress, your norms. And Ed Behan, he said, they're close personal friends, they know each other well. And he said, you just finished 6 minutes, and he was stunned, one, because he couldn't do it, and he's a PT, and he looked at his analytics, and they were so much higher than what he'd been able to get to that point. So naturally, their program, he's about to be doing some of the research with this system and the recordings. So we have we're going to be hearing a lot more stories now that the system is launched here in the United States, in Europe, and going into the Asian and then Australian markets.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, it's very fun to write for like 45 beats per minute, but we're working on 0 to 4 beats per minute, which is like very, very difficult because most music is about like 70 beats per minute.
That's a fugue, I think.
Yeah,
it's
that's
70.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that you listen to. So writing for that, it seems like it's just a slow piece, but for writing for that sort of movement is awesome. It's going to be difficult though, but a lot of fun.
And none of it could be achieved without merging technologies they've licensed. They used the last 2 years. We couldn't do this without their help. A lot of this is proprietary information, so I can't go into the details, but also then biodex, the medical systems. And now that this is launched, we have 4 other biomedical systems all wanting to get involved. And I got a call from Miami University. Their researchers were there, and they work with amputees. And the music, they said, we hate the metronome. Our amputees will not use the effective side the same. But with the music on the treadmill, everybody was wanting to use the side with the amputee as well as the other. So they're asking, they've got a big NIH grant. But emerging technologies, biomedical companies, Biodex especially, some of the other shots, Rupert, Malcolm Harper, Real Sound Recording, has been advising us and working with me for 20 years, knowing what we were trying to do even back then, but technology wasn't there. The music industry wasn't ready. Who am I forgetting, you guys? Our physical therapist, Rachel Thorpe, and the head researcher, Kristen Barta. We have a research study now with more advanced. We had a pilot study with stage 1 and 2, people with Parkinson's that aren't maybe using a cane, and that came out really powerfully. So we're going to where nobody does research on stages 3 and 4. And we're doing at University of St. Augustine. They just got some new advanced equipment where it's a robotic harness on a track, and then a xenomat you walk over, and these are for people who are using wheelchairs and walkers only, who usually don't get to do the research and these things. So that's already started. We're doing that project actually now with these recordings. And then as soon as we have the slower recordings, we'll be doing the babies with cerebral palsy that should be walking, but they're not, and watching the difference. And that's a hard group, but they'll be also in that gait, the harness suspense. But we have to develop those recordings first at those slower beats as the physical therapist moves their body, and then the music compared to the kids who don't have that.